Hi everyone, it's been a little while since I've made a video and I'm going to roll together a Chatty update with an announcement. So I'm going to announce some new things that I've been working on and some things that are launching today and explain in a bit more detail than I have before on the channel what those things look like, how they're working and so on. But I also want to talk a bit about my own practice and my own spiritual thoughts and evolutions and where I'm hoping to go with that. Not in any great detail, but I will come back to these topics in future videos. Before I get into the content of the video though, I just wanted to say a really big thank you to everyone who commented and just responded so warmly to my last video. I was in a dark place at that time. I'm laughing nervously. I definitely went through a few very difficult weeks, really a few very difficult months recently. I am feeling like I'm coming back out of it, but I really felt so heartened by everyone's responses. I didn't respond to them immediately because I wasn't in the right headspace to do so, but I did read all of the comments as they were coming in, and I just really wanted to thank you and say that some of you did say that it made you feel better to hear that I was going through something similar to you, and know that equally it makes me feel better to know that I'm not alone and that I'm seen, and that not just that other people are experiencing the same thing, because I don't want other people to be feeling lonely like I'm feeling, but it definitely is heartening to know that there are so many essential strangers, but people whose usernames I recognize out there who come to the videos and we have this moment of camaraderie, and it means a lot. And I really just felt like I wanted to specifically thank you, especially after that video, because it was quite raw and many of your responses were quite raw and honest as well, and I just really appreciate that. My big announcement for today is that my new website has launched. It's still at anyaorga.com, the link will be in the down bar, but it's a brand new layout and it really is a brand new website. All the pages are different. What it's focused on and geared towards is completely different, because the old website was very much focused around the blog and the Paving Your Own Path video series course type thing, and this time around I'm really focusing on the services that I have to offer. I am going to continue to build on this website and I will be offering loads of more things to come. Paving Your Own Path has not completely disappeared, it is going to come back. I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do with that and where I'm going to have it for you to download and so on. But the new things on the website really are the two services that I am offering at this time. So I have started offering spiritual mentoring and tarot readings. You probably already know that if you are an avid viewer of the channel. You've probably already heard me talk about these things. But the website is there now for you to go and have a look at these services, have a little read about them, and potentially ask me a question or find out more about them before you decide to go ahead and purchase and work with me in that way. I think the tarot readings are fairly self-explanatory. I think I've talked about them and what I've been aiming to do with tarot here on the channel recently, and if you are interested in that, I will link some videos up above somewhere for you to have a look at. I'm focusing just on written readings for now. That's how I started off with tarot, and that's what I'm feeling most called to work with at the moment. I'm offering 3 different types of readings though, 3 different sizes. So a 3-card 1,000-word reading, a 5-card 1,500-word reading, and an 8-card 2,000-word reading. Spiritual mentoring sessions are much the same as they always were, but I'm also offering a bundle of 3. You can purchase 3 at a time if you know that you are going to want more than one session with me. If you know you're going to want 3 or more sessions with me, if you have something to work through that you know is going to take a number of months or weeks, and you feel that it's something that you want to work through over the space of more than an hour, you can order 3 at once, and that just gives you a 10% discount. Mentoring is running as it always has since I first started it back in, I think it was November or December. It's an hour-long session, one-to-one on Zoom, and you can send me your time zone and your availability, and then I'll get back to you and let you know some different slots that might be suitable for you that work in my calendar as well. So I thought that I might describe how the mentoring sessions have been working out so far. Every single mentoring session is different. I think that's the first thing I really want to emphasize, is that there's no particular criteria that you need to fulfill. There's nothing in particular you need to be trying to do with your practice, or nothing in particular that you should be aiming for a session with me. I'm very open-ended. I'm very open to making the hour be whatever it is that you want or need it to be. That being said, there is a tendency, I feel like most of my clients are coming to me with specific practice needs that they have stalled in their practice in some way. Maybe they used to have a spiritual practice and you know, they're no longer keeping it up, or they want to get back to it. Or I've also had some people who have never really started a spiritual practice properly and they want to get it up and running. They have an idea in mind of something that might translate to a practice, to a sacred space, to a ritual, and they want to talk through and brainstorm and think about how that might work. But I've also had sessions as well with people who just are at a transitional point in their spiritual practice or in their life, and they feel the desire to talk that through with me and to work through the emotional complications of changing times in our spirituality, of difficult points in our spiritual practice and our spiritual identity and that kind of thing. And I love those interactions as well. They're a lot more free-flowing and they have a less practical approach maybe. So I would highly recommend a spiritual mentoring session to you if it's in your budget and you feel right now that you are looking for inspiration, for that spark of motivation and just something that you need to get yourself in gear and to get yourself in motion. Or if you have a specific problem or a knot in your practice, a knot in your spirituality or spiritual identity, there's just something that you're not quite managing to tease out by yourself, I would highly recommend a spiritual mentoring session to work through that. I would say that I've had really good success so far with all of my clients. I never feel as though I've left a client disappointed or as though they haven't come to some resolution or come to some development in their mind. And I've only heard good things back from all of my clients, that they have actually gone on to implement those ideas and to actually develop the practice or do whatever it was that they were hoping that the session would help them to do. The tarot readings can definitely fulfill a lot of the same needs, I would say though, and if you're feeling as though maybe you don't particularly want a face-to-face, maybe you want something that is going to be a bit more artistic or a bit more fanciful, a bit more spiritually oriented, that's really tapping into my own understandings of divinity and so on, then a tarot reading might be exactly what you're looking for. I am more than happy to talk about things other than spiritual practice in the mentoring sessions. If there's really anything in your life that you are looking for a bit of guidance and inspiration, if there's something that you have a block with and that you feel like you need to get over a hurdle with in your life in terms of anything like creative output or really anything, I'm very willing to take my spiritual expertise and apply that to other areas of your life as well, at least within reason. But if you are facing an issue in your life or something that you're dissatisfied with in your life that is not particularly oriented towards your spirituality or your spiritual practice, then maybe a tarot reading is more what you would be looking for from me. Maybe that is something that would be at least a very good starting point to get the ball rolling, to get you thinking in new ways and to maybe shine at least a spiritually influenced torch on that area of your life and to give you some inspiration and motivation to move forward with it. So those are the things that have been taking up all of my time basically for the past 5 months or so. Mentoring sessions, tarot readings, and especially in the last few months, finishing the website, getting that website up and running. I coded it myself, I designed it and coded it myself, did all the work myself because I wanted it to be a learning experience as well. I'm interested in learning more about web development as an ongoing project as well. So it was frustrating, but a very educational experience for me. But going forward, I'm really excited to be able to spend a bit more time now on other projects, hopefully making more YouTube videos and diversifying my YouTube content a bit more again. And I would like to maybe get back to blogging. I haven't written a blog post, or I wrote one blog post in the past 3 years or something like that. And I really miss it. So I think that's something I'm going to aim to start doing probably on a weekly basis again. Maybe very short posts, but I do want to start writing something on a regular basis. And then finally, I thought I would say a few words about some thoughts that I've been having about my spirituality and divinity and so on. The Dark Goddess is a concept that came up for me recently from a personal perspective. It came up in therapy actually, and it was because I had been thinking about my role as a researcher and a scholar, and my role as an expert in the Dark Goddess as a scholar, and how I've never really been able to embrace that fully. I think partly because I almost resent having that role and thinking about the Dark Goddess in that way, associating myself with the concept of the Dark Goddess in a purely scholarly academic way, because the entire process it really has taken me away during that time from what that idea, from what she means to me on a personal level, and why I was so interested to do that research, read those books, watch those videos, and delve into the topic in the beginning, like in the first place. And I realized that I really do want to start thinking more about her from a personal perspective and from the perspective of a spiritual practitioner a lot in the future. And that is one of the projects that I really want to dig into now in future months. I want to start creating content about the Dark Goddess for you. But I also really do want to start thinking about my practice, and I feel like one of the reasons my spiritual practice has been feeling a little bit hollow, or my spiritual life in general has been feeling a little bit hollow, is because the Dark Goddess slipped away from it, and the Morrigan slipped away from it, I think, as part of that as well, because of that. And it's because I, as I said, was focusing too much on the Dark Goddess in an academic sense, with this very critical social scientific lens, and not allowing myself, I wasn't able to have the mental room to think about it in any other way. So the thoughts that have been coming to mind for me have really just been about how central the Dark Goddess, or a similar concept, is to my entire concept of divinity, and to the entire reason why I practice spiritually at all in the first place, and really to who I am as a person and what I find important. So through the discussion with my therapist, we came to the conclusion that the Dark Goddess primarily for me represents the sense of mystery and chaos and possibility in the world that comes with that sense of not fully knowing or grasping something, not being able to fully comprehend it, and that lack of comprehension, that air of infinite mystery, creates a sense of danger, but it also creates a huge sense of motivation and longing, and a lot of emotions that most people might consider to be kind of negative, but that I actually don't see that way. I don't see them as being a bad thing. I don't see longing as being a form of suffering. Longing to me it's almost the substance of the universe. It's almost the substance of life. If I'm not longing for something, then I'm not really living. And maybe that's not the word that other people would use for the same thing, but it's a word that means a lot to me. And the Dark Goddess for me is really caught up with that. The name Dark Goddess evokes something in me that reminds me of a specific kind of feeling that I have at the altar and in sacred space, and in particularly charged spiritual moments. When I feel this connection to something that is so vast and incomprehensible and dark in many different senses of the word. Dark literally, we tend to practice in darkness, and I really enjoy that about paganism and witchcraft, because it also reminds me of cosmos. It reminds me of the darkness of most of the perceivable universe, and the unknowable expanses between all of the stars that we can see in the night sky, and so on. I realized during this conversation and the journaling, the vast amount of journaling that I did afterwards, that I misunderstood in myself what I actually really mean by the darkness and that sense of dark awe that I feel. It's not so much related to death and breaking things down and destroying them as it is pulling them apart and understanding them in a different way. So looking at life through a different lens and seeing the mystery in it, seeing the infinite possibility in it, rather than just the order and the patterns that science has shown us that exist in nature and the predictability of it. I think all of those things are important, and I think there's a reason that I like to also celebrate that side of nature, to celebrate the patterns, the predictability, the mundane experience of day-to-day life and walking in nature and feeling the sun on your face and so on. But equally important is that underbelly of doubt and uncertainty in the face of all of those things, and just this sense of that nothing has to be rigid, that just because science can explain certain things, or that we can come up with very logical, ordered explanations for things, doesn't mean that there aren't things that fly in the face of those ordered expectations. And that, for me, is what the Dark Goddess represents. And although the light side, the ordered side, might represent our experience of being in the world and experiencing things with our bodies, I think that there can be a certain amount of loneliness to that perspective on life. If everything is very stable and always the way it seems in consensus reality, then we can fall into a perception that our conscious minds are separate from everything else, and that we are this body moving through the world and interacting with other things around us, but not necessarily a part of it. Whereas for me, the Dark Goddess breaks that down and questions it, and opens up all sorts of possibilities of how we're actually not just connecting to things outside of ourselves, but part of them. And it just opens up just endless possibility. I don't know how well I'm really explaining any of that, and it is, as I said, a topic that I'm going to come back to. I'm going to make lots of content on the Dark Goddess in months and years to come. But I just wanted to put out a little taster of where my mind has been going with these ideas recently, and I haven't quite figured out how I want to integrate this into my practice. I'm feeling maybe called to change up my altar to reflect some of these realizations and so on, and maybe to start working with the Morrigan again, because I slipped out of the habit of that after the autumn season for me is Morrigan season, and after that season was past in winter and in spring, I fell out of the habit of doing devotionals for her again. And I might go back to doing that in the future. But yeah, when those things happen, I will probably document them, at least to some degree, here in the channel. I will let you know where my adventures take me. But yeah, I thought that I would just, like I say, give you a bit of a chatty update on where my mind has been at and so on. And I hope that you will go and check out the new website. I'm very proud of it. It's not perfect, but I'm proud of it. I'm happy with it, and I feel it just reflects more accurately where I'm at and what Anya Orga means to me right now, and what it is that I want to be putting out into the world. So yeah, do go and check it out before you disappear off and do your own thing again. And as always, I'll talk to you again soon.